I once went to Gosforth Working Men's Club. For those of you not from Newcastle, Gosforth is a suburb of Newcastle. Anyway, I went to the Working Men's Club there to see my mate's boy band. And about halfway into the show, after they'd been playing Westlife and stuff like, Take That, the singer goes, "Oh, I'm going to play a track now. This is a song called Miles Away, and it's by Winger." At which point I went, "Winger? Winger?" And there you go. That's the next band I'm going to talk about. Winger. Okay, so Winger, basically, they are formed by the bass player Kip Winger. He's top session player. He played with Alice Cooper, and he knew the producer Beau Hill, who twiddled the knobs for Rat and had fantastic success with them. Beau Hill also knew a guitarist called Red Beach, so somehow I think either he put them together or their paths crossed. And Red Beach was a top session player on the New York scene. Basically, I think Kip Winger demoed songs. He demoed them with Reb. Then they got another crack player in, a guy called Rod Morgenstern from the Dixie Dregs, or who had played with the Dixie Dregs. And the keyboard and rhythm guitarist Paul Taylor had also been in Alice Cooper's band, I think. So anyway, so they kind of, they sort of come together. They don't go out and gig and hit the circuit. They come together as working musicians in the studio and being sidemen for other artists. So basically their first album comes out in 1988, and that is Winger. This is the Rock Candy remaster. As usual, it's back to front because I've got to see what I'm doing. So this got really good reviews when it first came out. And I think my brother bought the vinyl. And I really liked it at the time. I always liked Winger. They were always a band on my radar, but they weren't in my kind of upper echelons of bands. That's changed. That's changed in the last 10 years since they've come back recording albums. I think they're a fantastic band. And those of us who've been lucky to see them live recently, they are one of the greatest live acts ever in terms of playing, in terms of tightness. They are phenomenal. And you'll find it all here on this album. This is it's a bit of a classic hair metal debut. You got Madeline, Hungry, two great openers. Madeline has got a fantastic kind of intro using a Nashville tuning on the guitar by Red Beach. And then the solo is absolutely scorching. Kip Winger's a great bass player and he's a great singer. He's got a fantastic range and he totally knows how to do a big rock hair vocal. Next track, Hungry, I love that one. Great riffing by Reb. And at the end, he does some lovely layered feedback stuff where he's got multi-track feedback at the end. You can really hear the amps he was using for the guitarists and equipment heads. He used to endorse a company called Kitty Hawk. And when the track breaks down after the solo on Hungry, you can really hear the sound. It's very kind of squelchy, very saturated. But I don't know what happened to that company. I don't know what he uses now. Next track was the big hit, and this is the track that caused problems for Winger. Aside from having a big hair image and Kip Winger being a pin-up for the hair metal thing, the 17, the lyrics, I think it does him a disservice. I love the track. It's great. It's got another great Reb solo. It's just that they got tarnished with a perception and they'll get treated very cruelly down the line because of this. But 17's a great track and it was a big hit. Next track, Without the Night. Really like this one. Not very well known track on the album, but it's a really good power ballad. And then side one, as it was on the original vinyl, finished with a cover of Purple Haze, which is pretty cool actually. You'd think it wouldn't work, but it does. And Dweezil Zappa does some soloing on this and trades off with Reb. All the way through this, obviously Paul Taylor's contribution is really good, and Rod Morgenstern's just a top drummer. Side two, State of Emergency, nice sort of Van Halen riff, and then my favourite riff, one of my favourite album tracks, Time to Surrender, fantastic riff. And Kip does his top pronunciation of the word love. He says, "Love, 'cause my love don't live here anymore." Obviously inspiring people like Adele moving into the future. Next track up was weakest track, I think, Poison Angel. That's probably the one track on the album that I can do without. Then there's Hanging On. That's actually the Van Halen riff, apologise. And then it finishes with an absolute classic power ballad, Heading for a Heartbreak. Probably like the finest track on an album, with an amazing outro solo by Red Beach, where he just really cuts loose, but does stuff that other guitarists didn't do at the time. Obviously Red Beach, for those who know his playing, has got a unique finger tapping style, but he's got a way of approaching things that's different to others. It's only recently I really came to appreciate how good a rhythm player is. He's one of the great hard rock rhythm players. So this has got a couple of bonus tracks on it, which weren't on the album, which are on B-sides, Higher and Higher and Never, and they're both good tunes. Higher and Higher, you maybe could have replaced that with Poison Angel. It's a really good debut. It's definitely a 9 out of 10. It's up there with the top albums in this genre at the time. And it went platinum, did really well for them on the back of the 17, but obviously there was starting to be a backlash against hair metal at this point, and obviously Winger were going to get caught up in that in quite a nasty way. The next album was In the Heart of the Young. Really good follow-up. Production's better on this, probably a bigger budget. The first track, Can't Get Enough, very Def Leppard-ish vibe. Great bass, synth bass on this, and a fantastic rhythm guitar sound. Red Beach has the opening power chords on this. It's just, I can just listen to it all day. This is an album I didn't like as much as the first one, but now as I've got older, it's come closer. You got Can't Get Enough, Loosen Up. Loosen Up's pretty groovy. It's a sort of funky track, so they're starting to kind of stretch out a bit more from the first album. Then there's the Winger moment, Miles Away, which is a really cool ballad. Love the power ballads. They got Easy Come Easy Go. That's got brass section on it, which is very fashionable at the time. If people remember, Aerosmith introduced brass into their arrangements, and then Winger copied that. Extreme did it, so that became a popular thing with the metal scene at the time, or the hard rock scene, was to bring in the brass arrangements, and it just adds a commercial sheen to the tracks. Last track on side one on this is Rainbow in the Rose, and this is quite got a little bit of a proggy element to it, and some interesting kind of timings and grooves on it. Really good work from Rob Morgenstern. And then side two opened with In the Day We'll Never See, which is a really good rocker about the environment. Funnily enough, we're sort of thinking about that at the moment. And then probably one of the top tracks off the album, Under One Condition. This was famously dedicated to Rachel H, which stood for Rachel Hunter. Rachel Hunter was a model who was Kit Winger's girlfriend at the time, and she left him for Rod Stewart. And there we go. Rod Stewart, well, yeah, he's richer anyway, but maybe she saw something in his hair. Maybe it was better hair than Kip's. But anyway, Under One Condition's a great track. There's a really good sort of progressive-y, odd time signature bit in this for the musos after the solo, or during the solo. Then the track, the album Little Dirty Blonde's a track I can do without. Obviously, it's called Little Dirty Blonde. It tells you what kind of track it is. Then you got Baptised by Fire again. That's got a dodgy rap in it. It's these two tracks are the ones I can do without. There's 11 tracks on this album, so if we took those off, there'd be 9. But I'll come to what I think they should have done. And then there's You Are the Saint, I'm the Sinner, which is a pretty cool rocker. A good filler track, and then finishes off with the title track, In the Heart of the Young, which is kind of quite epic. It's in the style of Under One Condition, Rainbow in the Rose. It's a really cool ending track. It's got a great intro. So there's quite a lot of maturity in parts of the writing on this album. Other aspects of it are fitting more in with the cock rock era. On this, there's 2 bonus tracks. I can't get enough edit, but there's a track called All I Ever Wanted, and that was the B-side of Miles Away, I think. But they should have put that track on the album. It's really good. It's a great rocker. Reb does an insane solo. So for me, you could have lost Little Dirty Blonde, Baptised by Fire, and put All I Ever Wanted on and had an even better 10-track album. So it's really good. It stretches out more, that album. I don't think it's as good as the first, but it's really good. Then things get bad for Winger. Their album goes platinum, 1990. Obviously, they've got a gap of 3 years. In that time, they've got the character of Stewie, I think he's called, on Beavis and Butthead. He wears a Winger t-shirt. He gets picked on by Beavis and Butthead, and Metallica famously threw darts at the picture of Winger on the Black Album, making a Black Album video. It's that time when music's changing, and bands like Winger, Rat, Dokken, numerous bands are in the firing line. I think what's a shame for a band like Winger, they're really quality musicians, the quality songwriters, and because of the MTV imagery of the time, and some of the lyrical content, they get basically caught up in that wash and don't survive. So by the time this album comes out, 1993's Pull, even though this gets really good reviews, and for a lot of people this is their best album, they end up playing to 90 people and get dropped. But let's go through this album. This is co-produced by Mike Shipley. I think he passed away a few years ago. He's Def Leppard's engineer, with Mutt Lange. It's a really quality record, this. I think where this differs is it keeps the kind of mature aspects of the songwriting from In the Heart of the Young, but it loses a lot of the sleaze, cock rock lyrics. There's a couple of tracks, I would say, In My Veins, maybe Like a Ritual. There's a bit of lyrical content there which we could say would fit in with the Hair era, but really it veers away from that. It opens off with Blind Revolution Mad, which is really cool. It's kind of 2 tracks in one. It's got a kind of really cool acoustic intro, which kind of takes up about the first 40% of the song, and then it just goes into something different, like a really heavy riff. It's really good, great opener. And then you've got Down Incognito, and this has got a lovely harmonica on it, and it's just such a kind of feel-good track. It's about being, on your uppers, as they say, or down, as I forget the phrase, but it's just kind of got a positivity turn. It's got a really nice kind of swing to it. Just a very good track. Then it's got a top power ballad where Kip does a great vocal, A Spell I'm Under. Just really, really big track, but big in the right way. Then there's In My Veins, which is, the most of the cock rock track, but it's good. And then it finishes off side 1 with Junkyard Dog, and this is another really interesting track. It's got a really dirty down and dirty drop D riff. So in that way, it's kind of taking a cue from what's happening in music at the time with the Seattle bands doing drop D tunings. But Winger keep their integrity; they don't jump on the bandwagon. And it's kind of the first half of the song's like that, and then it kind of breaks down into an acoustic reprieve, I don't know what you'd call it, and then the second half of the song's completely different from the first, but it works really well together. It's almost 2 songs in one, but it's obviously about drug addiction, and it's good. It's just quality songwriting. Side 2 opened with The Lucky One, which is another really good ballad. Then there's In for the Kill. Again, that's kind of more like the stuff they do on the first album. Good track. No Man's Land, again, that's a bit more like the first album. But they're really good rockers. Then there's Like a Ritual, which I mentioned before, but it's a cool track. I mean, I said the lyric was kind of a bit more what you'd think would be cock rock, but it's not really. But it's got a really good bit. It uses tribal percussion at the end. And then it finishes with a really good acoustic track, Who's the One? And that's pretty much acoustic all the way through, and that kind of shows the way that Kip Winger will go with his solo stuff when he does his solo acoustic shows. So I was just scratching my back. But again, the use of acoustic guitars on this, the stretching out. If I just show you the picture on the inside, I think that, again, it's back to front. You can see there, by then, compared to what they look like on the back of this album. There you've got your, it's not too extreme here. They're wearing leather jackets. It's actually a pretty cool look for the time, that. That's the other thing, they're not like Pretty Boy Floyd or something like that. I mean, they've got big hair, but this is a great album. I mean, I probably like the first one the best, but, this is very good quality. I think the thing is with this album, it's, Pull has, it's got standout cuts, but it hasn't got a Madeline or a Hungry or a 17 or a Can't Get Enough. It hasn't got one of those tracks. It just works as a whole. So what happens after that? Basically, Winger get dropped, like a lot of bands do. Go into production, go into solo stuff. Red Beach joins Dokken and makes a really good album called Raise the Slate with Dokken. We'll maybe do a Dokken one of these. And then they, like a lot of bands, in the early noughties, all the artists realised, well, there's no point in me trying to change my sound for the 90s because no one likes it anyway, so let's just go back and sound what we used to sound like. And they usually get in contact with Frontiers Records, and eventually they put an album out, and that's 2006's Winger 4. It's probably my least favourite Winger album, this, but it's really good. Quite interesting again. it's almost a concept album or thematic album about Iraq War. I remember a friend of mine at the time saying, he was talking about American Idiot, he said, American Idiot's not the great Iraq War album, Winger 4 is. So with this, there's some quite, dark stuff on this. M16 track 4 is interesting. That's got a really interesting timing groove to it. Right Up Ahead, the opening track's really cool. Four Leaf Clover. The last track, Can't Take It Back, is really damning. It's basically a damning indictment of the Bush era and the Bush administration. Is basically saying, look, you've done this, you've got to own this. There's no going back from the moves you've made. The production, I'm not as keen on this. I think obviously they've recorded it themselves. They're probably waiting for equipment to get better. But it is a good record. I mean, if I was marking the Winger albums out of 10, I'd give 9 out of 10 to the debut, 8 to In the Heart of the Young, and the Pull album pushing 8.5 and 9. This is probably, a 6, probably a 7. It's a good album. So after that experiment 3 years later, I think, in 2009, they come back. I'm looking at my dates, 2009, they come back with a Karma album. And this is more in the traditional Winger style. They played a tour in the UK on the back of this. At this stage, they bring in the guitarist John Roth. Now, John Roth's a Nashville musician, so they bring him in on second guitar, because Paul Taylor always played guitar. And at this stage, sometimes Kip would play on keyboards. Or would he? Yeah, he would sometimes. I can't remember. Anyway, I'm waffling. But John Roth's a really good player. He used to do a little solo spot live. And he actually plays on an album with Giant. They did a kind of another reboot of Giant around this time. And he plays all the guitar on that with Terry Brock singing from Strange Ways. And actually there's a track on that album called I've Got Plenty of Love. And you want to check out his lead solo on the end of that. I mean, the guy can really play. And fantastic backing vocalist as well. When I saw them live, the vocal harmonies from everyone was superb. But yeah, this album starts off with 2 sort of really up-tempo records, Deal with the Devil, tracks, Deal with the Devil and Stone Cold Killer. I didn't used to like Stone Cold Killer as much, but it is good. So and then there's Big World Away. That's a really good track. Come a Little Closer. Yeah, it's pretty good. Then you got Pull Me Under, not the Dream Theater track. This is a really cool song. They play this live, and Reb does a cool thing on the solo. He just kind of repeats a tapping lick and then puts a harmony over the top, and it's kind of a really simple idea, but it works so well. Then you've got Supernova, which is another, I think it's Kip's financial crash lyric. Basically, he did Iraq on the previous album, and it's basically saying, what's happened to your mass, your mass free market. That's really good. And then there's a track, Always Within Me. That's really good. That's a really good sort of more ballady track. Next track, Feeding Frenzy, not as into that. And After All This Time, which is a good, that's a good ballad. That's got a kind of Motown sort of time groove feel. 12/8, I think. And then the last track, Witness, Red Beach just basically goes for it. I remember Kit Winger saying at the time, Red Beach is an amazing solo. So he does, like Heading on a Heartbreak, he does one of these great outro solos. Rod Morgenstern, I should say, throughout the list, the drums are always immaculate. The guy plays for the song. Obviously, with the Dixie Dregs, I imagine, other stuff he's done, he probably cuts loose more. But he takes a role of really playing for the song as a drummer and just playing what suits. But he does, drummers would know more than me, but he does do top stuff. There's a little bonus track on this, but it's a good album, probably 7 out of 10, I think, on that. And then I think, although some people might not agree, the most recent album, 2015's Better Days Coming, it's about time they did another one. I think this might be a little better. The track Rat Race got picked up on Planet Rock. And that's a good track. You got Midnight Driver of a Love Machine. That opens the track. That opens the album. It's really good. I mean, just reading here, so it's produced, engineered, and mixed by CF Kip Winger. So Kip's, and this album's, they're sounding better all the time, the productions that they're doing themselves. Obviously, a lot of bands are doing that now. It's they're recording at home and saving a lot of money Albums typically costing a few $1,000s instead of hundreds of thousands. Anyway, Midnight Driver of Love Machine's great. You got Queen of Babylon, really good. Rat Race. There's Better Days Coming. That's a really good track. That I didn't used to like that track when I first heard the album, but it's really good. Then the fifth track, Tin Soldier, that's got a really interesting time signature. That's good. Ever Wonder, yeah. So Long China, I like that catchy chorus, quite an unusual lyric. Storm in Me, yeah, it's good. Be Who You Are Now, yeah, that's a good one. Another Beautiful Day, it's kind of straight ahead rocker. And it finishes off with Out of This World again. That's sort of kind of in the spirit of In the Heart of the Young. That type of track where they've got like a big sort of epic track finishing the album, but it's good, quality stuff, and hopefully they'll keep doing more stuff. Obviously Red Beach is very ensconced in Whitesnake, but as soon as he's got a gap in his schedule, he's usually back with Kip writing. If you go on YouTube, or I think there was a bonus disc on the Better Days Coming album, there's just footage of him and Kip writing in the studio, and it's pretty mental how they write. Basically, Rebel just riff. Kip will go, right, let's lay that down, and then they just seem to kind of cut and paste and kind of create riffs as they go along, and they sort of build songs from like a small acorn. But like I say, Red Beach is one of the riff meisters if you're into guitar. His riffage is as good as his soloing. So anyway, yeah, that was Winger. We'll do some more. Well, I will. Some more stuff from the 80s. Cheers.